Okay, I'm going to go a little bit more over some synthesizer stuff today because I just got a new toy for this thing. This, of course, is my Yamaha PSS-80 or PSS-680, which we have all seen. Now I've got a reason to bugger with the MIDI stuff over here. So you can see we have my EMU X MIDI Creative Labs, whatever it is, plugged in. A note on plugging your cables in. This is your MIDI input, this is your MIDI output, and this is MIDI through. Since this is a 1x1 interface, which is only made for one device, I'm just going to plug, and for the sake of this I'm going to keep it simple. I could actually go into complexity about having like 16 on the in channel and whatnot. But plug the cable with the opposite name into the plugs. That's how it works. Alright, now let's go into my program here that I use. I know this is highly unconventional, but go into my program. What you want to do, in my case, set it up for the XEMU, XMIDI 1x1, MIDI in and MIDI out. That way that's communicating directly with it. And then, anyway, let's go let me show you a first part about this. When you get to this screen right here, which has all this, you want to hit this button up here, which is Receive SysX. Hit that, and then you go down here to your little keyboard thing, hit this button right here, and then hit one of these. And if you're lucky and you received a signal, you will see something like this in your messages list. Ignore all but the first 5 here, starting with 0 through 4. Pretty much they all have length 72, all this stuff down here, of course, not a PSS sound bank message. And now I'll get started on it by talking about how to edit patches and maybe do some documentation on how in the heck this stuff works. I'm still learning this, so it's not going to be an easy task. Alright. End of the live action sequence. Done, even if it kills me. Anyway. Open up PSS edit. Okay, set our MIDI device. This is EMU X Mid 1x1 USB. Here we go. Here's PSS edit software. First thing we do is we hit a button called Channel Transmit, which is way down the far lower right of the control panel on the PSS-680. So we hit Channel Transmit, then we hit Receive SysX and hit the arrow key below the display, like shown in the earlier vid, and then all our patches come up. As you can see, I can go through all the presets. And all these different settings do different stuff. You have the modulator signal and the carrier signal. And before I go on, I'm going to tell you I'm not an expert at synthesizers. I'm actually pretty much a hack at this. I just barely know what I'm doing. So bear with me if I'm a little hazy on a few things or if I get something wrong, because it's my first time ever messing around with a synth with a MIDI editor. You got 2 different signals here, 2 different parts of your signal. You got modulation and carrier. Modulator is one of the 2 frequency modulators. So actually both frequency modulators, the frequency modulator synth, or FM synth as it's called. It runs off of the Yamaha chip, the OPL series chips that are usually found in sound cards for the MIDI output. Some of you might have played old DOS games in the 80s might remember those. Anyway, you have fine detune, which is basically gives sort of a detune effect to it. You can cause all kinds of atonal type sounds. Throws the tuning slightly off. You can do a coarse detune, which makes things sound a little harsher. Your frequency multiplicator, this is actually the transpose feature. The farther that side it is, the much higher the pitch is for that particular frequency modulation channel. Level key scaling. This does the, let me look at my cheat sheet here. Frequency scaling. It basically adjusts the attack level of the high end of modulation for the high and the low end for the low. And then for this here, rate key scaling, let me look at that again. Cutoff clearance of sound. I'll demonstrate some more. Like I say, I'm still learning this, so it's relatively new to me. You have amplitude modulation, which tends to change the sound up. Actually, it's kind of how I get some of those shifty noises out of this thing on occasion. Total level. This adjusts the total level of that particular frequency. Then you have several different sound wave tables that you can go through. Sines, square wave with sine wave halved, and square sine wave halved. Right now it's on sine half. Send it from the editor and punch it in. See, it's kind of a very 80s kind of sound. You also have a Adsr envelope for both, which I only just recently learned this term. Adsr stands for attack, decay, sustain, and release. And of course, since it's backwards, since the last two are dyslexically backwards in the editor, I couldn't really remember what the acronym stood for anymore. This, of course, is your attack rate, decay right, decay level, decay rate, decay level, decay 2 rate. Then you have the release rate, and you have the sustain release rate or something like that. Then you have a feedback level down here, which is sort of for your bursty sounds and stuff. There's a whole pile of unknown parameters down here, which I don't even have a clue as to what the heck they do. I need to experiment around with them more. Maybe I'll make a new vid and see what I can discover. Hopefully without crashing this thing again, because this program does crash. If you touch any of the buttons or keys on the keyboard while sending the receive sysx key, it pretty much locks up the program and sends you back to Control Alt Delete and kill process in the task manager. Up here you have vibrato mode, and even a thing for vibrato delay. And a hint about that is very useful, especially when you're trying to copy 80 synthesizer tones like I like to do. Trying to make myself like a poor man's Prophet 5 or something like that. Then you got sustain enable, which enables the sustain feature. You have PM sense and AM sense. I'm trying to still learn what those are. Checksum number right here, don't know what that does. And you have a randomize and send button, send from editor, which is how I send patches to the keyboard from the editor. And then inspector on off. Inspector allows me to go look at all this stuff up here. Turn up the volume on Xyles. That's the same patch too. It's a cool thing with the PSS-680. If you have this editing software, you can just hit single notes, and because of the long sustain, you only have to hit it once, and you can have really pretty sounding stuff like this, or you can hold it down and get those cool 80s kind of sounds. That's pretty much enough with me demonstrating the software. I might do some patch editing with this later on when I finally figure out how to work all this Adsr envelope filter or whatever stuff a bit more. But yeah, I figured I'd demonstrate this since somebody told me about this editor, and this is really a cool piece of software to use on the PSS-680.